Was an experimenter. He had no problem experimenting to see better fuel mileage. Smoking was another thing he was really touchy about. But the main thing, number one thing, was that he trying to save the company money. And that's exactly what he did. And I learned a lot from him. I learned a lot of ways to stretch your dollar. That's how I kept all these buses running for so many years, and so many of them. Try to spend the least amount of money that you can, because these things will eat you up cost-wise if you're not paying attention.
Well, when you got a private fleet of 69 of them, you got to do that.
I had 69 buses in the collection, and I was able to afford it. I don't think anybody else could do that.
They were all your own buses?
All mine. Now that doesn't include all the sale buses.
I know.
I mean,
But
there was hundreds of buses beyond that.
the fun fleet, like on your website, it talks about the fun fleet.
Yeah, the fun fleet was the buses that we had. We took them out all the time. We used them all, for fun. And but I had a rule that none of them at any time could be out of service. If one broke down or had a problem, it immediately got fixed. And one of the reasons why that was done is because the county of Riverside, they would come in and check, and there was a rule that you couldn't have any vehicle out of service for more than 6 months. If you did, it had to be towed away. So I made sure that every bus ran. And occasionally, once in a while, they'd come in and check, and I'd have to show them the records and start up a bus. They'd pick one at random, and then they went away.
So you give them their picks, they go out and pick one?
Well, they wanted to make sure they all ran, so and I would say pick anything, and they would do it. They did it occasionally, but the other thing is that I don't like buses that are flower pots. And you can have your nice little bus and have a collection that sits there and everybody looks at it. It doesn't go anywhere, and if it does go anywhere, it's not running right. I wanted it to function, and that's what I did. And I put every detail. And I wanted the doors to work. I wanted the lights to work. It's been great. And I did a lot of changes, a lot of modifications that I learned from George. Just because GM says this is the way to do it, not necessarily true. GM makes mistakes too.
Yeah.
And so, for example, here's a mistake that GM made right here. Right here.
Why?
Originally, when these buses were new in 1960, they had what they called the rolling lobe airbags. The ride was superior on these. It was very smooth, but it was very spongy. And they were fine as long as your shock absorbers were good, and as long as your radius rod bushings were good. When they get a little wear, they start doing this, the swaying, and they would hit the marker lights. And sometimes, on certain buses, they wouldn't stop rocking.
What would hit the marker lights?
The side of the bus. You go into a curb or something, and the bus would lean over it, because it would do this.
Oh, it hit the street lights, you mean?
That's right.
Holy shit.
It hit signs and stuff like that. So, to correct that, originally, this plate was down like this, which allowed the airbag to travel more. Then they came up as a replacement, and this is on all newer buses, with what we call the high table. That causes the airbag to have a shorter throw, which they don't
Rock as much.
rock over the side as much as the original ones. That's the reason why the very first ones always rode better than all the rest. So.
But 5400 rides pretty good.
Well, it rides good, but you can tell one that's original from one that's not. And then the other thing that the bus company started doing was putting what I called concrete shocks on them in the front, so they wouldn't move at all, and they rode like log wagons.
Oh, wow.
I used to call them concrete shocks. And looks like I'm getting another tool.